Hello and welcome to Matthew Reads, I guess. Today I am talking about If I See You Again Tomorrow by Robbie Couch.
But wow, what a moment I will never forget. A moment that is most pleasing to me.
You know, I know that Robbie Couch has a couple of other books, but this is the first one I've picked up. I will say, I know he's got another book, because one of them is on that stack, it's a whole 2 books. But it's, the Sky Blues, I believe, on top, without turning around. Yes, and with turning around, it's the Sky Blues. And maybe I did buy that one after reading this. Basically, this is one of those books that I'd just seen, or like, I think people talking about on Twitter. It might be in Robbie Couch himself, but then I just ended up picking it up from a bookshop. That's it, no cute story. That's it, that's the whole thing. What if that was just the whole video? Bye. Anyway, the blurb says that Clark is trapped in today, literally. For some reason, he's woken up and relived Monday 309 times, and he has to admit that being stuck in a never-ending loop is getting pretty lonely. Until day 310 turns out to be different. Suddenly, Clark's usual torturous math class is interrupted by an anomaly, a boy he's never seen before in all of his previous days. When shy, anxious Clark decides to throw caution to the wind and join effervescent, effusive Beau, okay, Twilight, on a series of errands across the windy city, he never imagines that he could fall this hard or fast for someone in just one day. But in Beau, Clark feels like he might have finally found the answer to his loneliness. There's just one problem: how do you build a future with someone if you can never get to tomorrow? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, that is the concept to Groundhog Day, just like reliving the same day over and over again. But I don't think I've ever actually consumed, like, is Groundhog Day a movie or a book? Like, I feel like there is a movie, but if there is a movie, I've never watched it, you know? Either way, it's one of those that, like, conceptually I know it has existed before and it's been done. To be honest, this was just the first iteration of that, I think. I'm sure, actually, to be fair, I'm sure there'll have been, like, some kind of video game that I've played that has done it. Like, can I think of any of them right now? No, I can't, but I'm sure there will have been. Either way, we open up, Clark is in therapy and he tells his therapist that he thinks he's lonely. But, like, we do also find out that his best friend Sadie has recently moved to Texas living her best life and that his parents are going through a divorce. So Clarky is kind of going through it. But then he gets given this 4-part homework assignment to try and beat his loneliness that I am going to have to read off of my notes. I've been holding the book this entire time. I'm just going to put it down. So yes, to make a new friend, help someone who needs it, be vulnerable so others can too, and then do the thing that scares him. And you know, he mentions that this assignment means that it's like therapy is going off script. And then, I will say, at first, like, the way I read it, I'll often, like, read a blurb to decide whether I want to buy a book. Then I'll completely forget the blurb because I'll end up, like, probably leaving it a few weeks before I actually pick it up and I'll have read another book by then. But yeah, I completely forgot that it was, like, stuck in a loop. So at first I was like, but then he reminded us that, like, he is in this loop. So obviously, since he's been in this loop for the best part of a year, he's going to have a script, isn't he, when it comes to therapy, if he's going, or, like, if he's due to go in every single Monday. You know, like, with the time loop, there are bits that he's used to, like, the conversations that he has with his, like, mum and his sister when he gets home to their apartment on an evening. And apparently he's also bitter towards his mum because he thinks it's her fault, or she was the one that decided that she wanted to divorce the dad. Like, the only thing that, like, he majorly enjoys at this point is the fact that he gets to bake something for his sister's birthday because her birthday is meant to be the next day, so he essentially just gets to, or has had the opportunity to try and bake so many different things. But obviously because he's, like, relived it every time and he's, like, kept the knowledge, basically. And yeah, then finally in the 3rd chapter, Beau DuPont, Mr. The Bridge himself, finally turns up. You know, in class, which is the Boulay Brothers Gagula, which is now, I think, the 2nd video in a row I've made that meme. Because, you know, Beau has never actually shown up before. And that's when they run off. They run out of class, steal a car, which conceptually I realise is wild, but if you're stuck in a time loop, you might as well. Because, like, if you're just going to wake up the next day, Mary, no consequences. I mean, there will be consequences for that day, but, like, no one else in the world is gonna, like, remember afterwards, are they? Anyway, I think, grabbing the book again, I think this is the first book in like a good few months that I've been genuinely excited about. Like, I know I mentioned before, like, the time loop concept isn't new, but again, I don't think I've read or consumed any time loop content before. And I don't know, to me it was just exciting, like, since Clark is living the same day over and over, like, this one thing showing up and changing is going to be the Gagula Titans for him. Like, there's this bit where he mentions he's used to, like, the same walk home and seeing the same events. And, like, even the points, like, in the early days of the time loop where he did, like, different things, like, the novelty of them wears off. But I don't know, I started, like, reading this book on a train, and, like, by the end of the journey, like, I think I was only on, like, maybe a 30-40 minute train journey. I don't know, okay, I don't know the logistics exactly, but by the end of the journey I'd read nearly 100 pages, so the bitch ate. Anyway, yeah, I did appreciate the whole journey that Clark went on. And it all started with him going to therapy, so good for Clark. We love therapy in this house. Like, weirdly, in a way, that therapy session that you started the story with, that's what inspired him to grow. And I suppose, like, with the situation he was in and, like, reliving the same things over and over, there is a whole lot of, like, since you are doing the same thing over and over, why not do something that scares you? Because, like, as I mentioned, no consequences, because you're just gonna wake up and have to do it again. And with, like, the side characters in this book were interesting because, again, with the concept, like, how deep can they get because you're stuck in one day? And, like, in the same period of time and, like, not remembering conversations that they're gonna have with Clark. You know, obviously Clark is reliving the day over and over again and he's remembering everything, but everyone else isn't. Like, to them it's the same day. To them they reset, but even though, like, their brains reset, even though it's the same day, time resets, but Clark's brain doesn't. And, like, obviously there are a few characters. Do I remember the names? No. Should I have written them down? Yes. I remember one called Emery. He worked in a movie theatre and he wanted to be an actor. There's a guy who works in a bakery and there's a woman in a theatre. Let me open the book and take a look. Okay, yeah, so it's Otto who works at the bakery, and then it's Dee who's at the theatre. It's like, yeah, we get bits and pieces. Like, obviously, Clark meets them with Bo for the first time when he goes out with Bo for a day. And then, as, you know, Clark tries to essentially find Bo again every day, like, he ends up going back to Bo, Dee, and nope, goes back to Otto, Dee, and Emery, and, like, learns more about them and what they're doing. And obviously the sad thing is, they're not remembering any of that, because it's all in the same day. But anyway, since Clark and Bo, they are stuck in the same time loop. That's, I guess, a minor spoiler, but I mean, since Bo turns up out of the blue, obviously he's gonna be something that's, like, not the same. Obviously, that's so dumb to say, but it makes sense in my brain. Like, Bo is convinced that the two of them need to find their soulmate to be able to get out of the time loop. Although, since Bo likes Clark, he wants to avoid him since he thinks he'll end up forgetting the boy that he's already with. And, like, this whole soulmate thing, I immediately thought this is the plotline to my favourite TV show, Vice Versa. Like, my favourite TV show ever, the one I have, like, literally 3 tattoos because of.
Hey, Queen. Girl, you have done it again. Constantly raising the bar for us all.
But yeah, it's essentially the plot to Vice Versa in a different font. So, like, in Vice Versa, the two main characters both die in their universe, go to another universe, and can only get back to the original universe, even though they died, by finding their port key, which is essentially their soulmate.
Big boobs? What?
And, you know, that is essentially, it feels like what this plotline is, and Mary, I love that plotline. Like, feed it to me. Like, and because Bo said that to Clark, I assumed that it meant Clark and Bo were gonna be soulmates. Or, like, and, you know, they'd spend time, like, away from each other, or just assuming the other one is not the other soulmate, just for them to realise that they actually are. Something like that. But yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna leave this video. If you can't tell, Mary, this 8, I love this book. I'll be 100% real. You know, like I said, I read the first 100 pages of this on a train journey, and then I read the entirety of the remainder of the book 2 days later in one session. Like, it is the first time in a long time that I have loved a book this much, and it will hands down be on my favourite books of the year, maybe even my favourite of the year, I'm not gonna lie. And, like, I was fully emotional by the end of the book. Like, straight up, Mary, just read the book. Like, I loved it. Don't tell me if you didn't like it, because I don't want to hear that. Anyway, yeah, that's where I'm going to leave this video. Have you read If I See You Again Tomorrow? What did you think of it? Please don't say negative things about it, because I will ignore them. No, I'm kidding. If you didn't like it, fair enough. Have you read any of Robbie Couch's other books? Let me know. So, otherwise, okay, bye.